Yep.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't take them long. I mean, there's some islands and stuff down here in South Carolina, near the ocean, and they get overpopulated with deer, and you can basically feed the deer out of your hand. They're so populated, and as soon as they open bow hunting up, within a season, you couldn't feed one of those deer or really see them. They figure it out
Right.
so quickly. They're so adaptive that they know where they're being hunted and where they're not. And that's the thing is on these small tracks is to trick them into thinking they're not being hunted.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I was going to show everybody. I had we're talking about overlook spots. This is like a little farm that I have permission on. I still have permission on it. It's just essentially this fence row to about right here, and then this little woods, just this field and this little woods right here. But I had a stand right in here, and these topo lines show a hill. It's not much of a hill. It's these are pretty spread out topo lines here. But typically deer would come out. The does and stuff, they'd bed back here in this little area, and they'd come out through here and then go out into this big crop field at night. I had to stand here intersecting it. Well, I had a trail camera like right here. This property I couldn't hunt. This isn't on it, but I had a really nice, I was like a 160. It had big split G2s, really beautiful buck this year on this farm. And, I kept thinking like he was bedding back in here, just couldn't figure him out where he was or when he was coming out, or maybe he wasn't living here very often. And the parking, we always parked right here. And then we'd walk down this fence row and then come right here into the stand, right? Like everybody would. Well, one mid-October hunt, I parked right here, and I was walking, and I got to about right here, and I realized I'd forgotten my grunt call, and I'm like, gosh, it's getting to where they may come to a grunt if I have to grunt at them, I'm like, I'm gonna go back and grab it. So I walked back down this fence row, got in my truck, got my grunt call, closed the door. And I was walking back, and that 160 jumped up, laying right here, and ran across this field and out of my life forever. I never saw him again. But I guarantee he just laid in this fence row and just watched everything that happened on this entire farm all the time. The farmer claimed that he saw him. This is a cattle pasture right here. He claimed he saw him bedding in this cattle pasture a couple times too. So could have been back in there. But just another good example of them living where you don't think they're going to be and just sitting there watching you, in a little overlooked spot.
It just seems to me like when you go to those spots that look like where deer should be, like you look at the terrain in a wooded area, kind of where everybody else would go when you look at a map, you get a lot of deer and you see a lot of deer, and probably more than you do in the overlook spots. But whenever you get one of those giant, mature, freaks of nature, they almost, more often than not, they're bedded someplace where you would never imagine they're bedding there.
Right. 100%. I got another spot that I'm always like, I was so freaking dumb when I was younger, man. Like all of these deer just lived right underneath your nose. I was going to show you another overlook spot that, I should have killed this deer too. Here we go. It's right here.
That drone recovery guy that's doing this deer recovery stuff, apparently he's got quite a few videos out of big deer like bedded right up against dog kennels in some of the most wild, unbelievable places you would never, ever think. And it's amazing how those mature bucks find that all the time. Yep. I mean, up against a dog kennel where the dog is yapping at him every time he comes in there and he knows he's safe. It's crazy.
Yep. I've seen that.
So if you guys ever watched The Hunting Beast, you've seen me on this property before here. Let's see, make sure I'm in the right. Yeah. So it's this farm right here I can hunt. It's a really large farm. This is a big CRP field right here. And these are crop fields down in here. Well, this actually isn't a crop field. This is another CRP field. And this is the drive off the main road, and you always just parked right here by these barns, and then you'd walk across the creek, and then you'd be down in the farm hunting. We used to park right here all the time, and I changed my ways because I'm like, man, I'm parking right in the where everybody, where anything could see me if they wanted to on that farm. So I ended up parking back here, or even at this house. And again, I had a big deer. It wasn't in the 160s, but it was probably in the 150s. That I'd get pictures of him out here on the farm, and I, never saw him out here in daylight hours. Well, one evening hunt, I parked here at this little barn. There's a little pull off right here, and there was the guy that lived in this little rental house. So the farmer, there's a little house right here that they rent out. Well, he was out in his yard, and he yelled at me or something, and I walked up through here to go talk to him, and that freaking 150 jumped up right here on the edge, backside of this pond right here, and ran right here across the highway into the other property. And I had never, I drove right by this is 20 yards right here, it's real nasty and thick. There's briars, and it's just the backside of that little pond. And he just laid right there, probably watched just for, his whole life, just park right there and walk out of his life forever, And then somebody shot him on that farm he ran onto that year, though. So that's been the story of these private pieces I have. It's always somewhere you don't look, If you want to watch more videos, there's options here and here. And if you want to subscribe, you can just click right here.